What if one of the biggest stories driving silver prices over the next several years has almost nothing to do with solar panels? Something surprising is happening in the silver market right now. For years, solar energy has been one of the biggest growth stories behind industrial silver demand. But in 2026, solar manufacturers are actually expected to use less silver. And at the exact same time, another industry is consuming staggering amounts of electronics, electricity, and power infrastructure. That industry is artificial intelligence. The AI data center boom is spreading far beyond NVIDIA chips and computer servers. We're talking about new power plants, electrical grids and substations, transformers and cooling systems, backup power, networking equipment, and massive data centers. And many of those technologies depend on something silver does exceptionally well: conduct electricity. So, could AI become silver's next major demand engine? Let's look at what's happening. First, we need to talk about solar. According to data from the Silver Institute and Metals Focus, photovoltaic silver demand fell approximately 6% in 2025 to around 186.6 million ounces. And in 2026, it's projected to fall another 19% to roughly 151 million ounces. That sounds terrible for silver, but there's an important detail. The solar industry isn't abandoning silver. Manufacturers are simply getting better at using less silver in each solar cell. It's a process known as thrifting. Companies have spent years trying to reduce the amount of silver required because silver is one of the more expensive materials used in solar manufacturing. So even as global solar installations continue to grow, the amount of silver required per panel can decline. And that's changing the industrial demand equation. But here's where the story gets interesting. Because while solar manufacturers are trying to figure out how to use less silver, another enormous industry is building infrastructure at a breathtaking pace. When most people think about artificial intelligence, they think about ChatGPT, NVIDIA GPUs, or maybe the latest AI model. But behind every AI query is physical infrastructure, huge amounts of it. AI requires data centers filled with servers. Those servers require high-performance processors and memory, networking equipment, as well as electrical connections. But they also require enormous amounts of electricity. And that means AI isn't simply creating demand for semiconductors. It's creating demand for an entirely new layer of power infrastructure, new transmission lines and substations, new transformers and switchgear, backup power systems and cooling equipment, electrical contacts and connectors. And this is where silver becomes extremely interesting. Silver is the most electrically conductive metal on Earth. That's why it continues to play an important role in advanced electronics and electrical contacts, switches and connectors, and other high-performance applications. And here's the part investors should be watching. The AI boom could potentially increase silver demand in two different ways at the same time. First, there's silver used directly in electronics and electrical equipment. But then there's the massive energy infrastructure required to power those systems. And the latest numbers suggest this infrastructure buildout is becoming enormous. Reuters recently reported that America's data center construction boom is spreading throughout manufacturing supply chains. Companies supplying generators, electrical equipment, cooling systems, and power management technology are seeing growing demand tied to data centers. GENERAC, for example, reportedly has a roughly $1.6 billion backlog, partly connected to this infrastructure boom. And we're seeing similar signals elsewhere in the technology supply chain. Analog Devices recently reported strong demand for power management chips associated with data centers and other applications. Meanwhile, energy storage demand is also being supported by rising electricity consumption associated with AI and data centers. In other words, AI is no longer just a software boom, it's becoming an electricity and infrastructure boom. and that could have major implications for industrial metals like silver. If you're interested in owning physical silver yourself, there's currently a promotion where qualifying investors can receive up to 10% free silver. You can click the link in the description below to check out the details and see if you qualify. Now, here's where this silver story gets even more interesting. You might assume all this means total industrial silver demand is exploding right now, but that's actually not what the numbers show. And this is an important distinction. Overall, industrial silver fabrication is expected to decline in 2026, largely because manufacturers, particularly in solar, are becoming more efficient with the metal. But that doesn't mean the long-term industrial demand story is disappearing. It means the sources of future demand may be changing. The Silver Institute has specifically identified areas including AI and data centers, electric vehicles, charging infrastructure, and other advanced technologies as important potential silver demand drivers through the end of this decade. And all of this is happening while the overall silver market is expected to remain in deficit. According to Bloomberg, 2026 is expected to mark the sixth consecutive annual silver market deficit. Think about that for a moment. For 6 consecutive years, total silver demand is expected to exceed newly available supply. Meanwhile, we're potentially entering one of the largest technology infrastructure buildouts in history. And that creates a fascinating question. What happens if AI infrastructure demand accelerates faster than expected? This is why I think people need to look beyond solar when thinking about silver. Solar isn't going away. Electric vehicles aren't going away. Electronics aren't going away. But now we're adding something else to the equation. Hundreds of billions of dollars being invested into AI infrastructure around the world. And AI data centers don't exist in isolation. They need power generation. They need electrical grids. They need energy storage. They need cooling. They need networking equipment. They need semiconductors. And they need massive amounts of highly reliable electrical equipment. Silver sits quietly inside many of the technologies supporting this increasingly electrified economy. That doesn't guarantee silver prices will rise. Industrial demand is only one part of the silver market, and silver prices can be extremely volatile. But it does mean something important is changing underneath the surface. For years, the big industrial silver story was solar, solar, solar. The next chapter could look very different. It could be AI, data centers, power infrastructure, EVs, energy storage, and advanced electronics, all competing for silver at the same time. And if that happens, while the silver market continues running structural deficits, silver could become one of the most interesting industrial metals to watch over the remainder of this decade. If you'd like to learn more about owning physical silver, click the link in the description to check out the current 10% free silver promotion for qualifying purchases. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because I'll continue following the AI infrastructure boom, silver and gold demand, and the major trends that could impact precious metals buyers over the coming years. Thanks for watching, and take care of each other.